Peace, y'all. Welcome to The Void of Thought. We're all about athletic self-mastery. Leave a like on the video, comment, and subscribe if you'd like. Stay tapped in. There's plenty more videos coming. And check out my Patreon too. We're building something very special over there. All the links will be in the description. But for now, let's get on with this knowledge. So here we are. We just passed the winter solstice. And Venus just went into retrograde, which it will be in retrograde until, I believe, late January. Like January 28th, 29th, somewhere around there. And so, if you're new to my channel and you're not familiar with like astrology or anything like that, then I suggest you start looking into it. And just a quick disclaimer, this video, if you couldn't already tell, is going to be another live active meditation. It's where I get into a meditative state and I just press record and record whatever comes to me in the moment. And so this is what we're doing. Right off the bat, we're talking about the time that we're in right now and dealing more with like astrological topics. And so if you're into this, keep watching, keep listening. If you're not, you can either test it out, see how it resonates with you, or just let it be. Just don't watch it. And so we just passed the winter solstice and Venus just went into retrograde. So what does this mean for all of us? For all of us, this means it's just a time to sit back and reflect on ourselves and on our lives in general. Because whenever a planet goes into retrograde, now, like another quick disclaimer, I'm not an astrologer or anything like that. I'm just someone who likes to research, and I like to figure out what the heck is going on with the stars, with the energy of the earth, and the energy within myself. And so what I've been hearing other astrologers saying, and like specifically people like Brother Yosef, who is, I believe, is New Life Tools on YouTube and on Instagram and everything. And then there's people like Dolo the Pilot Man, who I listen to and all that. And so hearing them and other astrologers talk about the Venus retrograde, a lot of them are saying the same things, which obviously means that it's just one of the signs that says the energy doesn't lie. The planets affect us every single day. And this is the energy that we're all experiencing. And the astrologers, they can just read the energy, and like all of us, they can feel into the energy as well to confirm what they're reading. And so what they're saying is that this Venus retrograde affects relationships, because Venus is the planet, they call it the planet of love. It rules over the romantic aspect of us and just relationships and connections in general with other people. And like it deals with our love language and everything like that. And so basically this retrograde is a time to reflect on our either romantic relationships and or our business relationships. And those two things are like the biggest things that I've been hearing, and that's personally what I've been feeling as well. Because I'm not going to get into any details of what I've been going through, like romantically or business-wise or anything, but I've been having plenty of experiences that directly aligned with the planetary alignments. And so the energy is telling me to do a certain thing, and that certain thing is to sit back, relax, reflect, and allow myself the time and space to figure out exactly how I want to set up my life. Like today, for example, that's all that I did. I reflected and I wrote down how I want my life to be set up. And let me rephrase that, how I want to set up my life, because nobody else is setting up my life but me. I am the creator of my life. I'm the creator of my reality. So I set up my life exactly as I see fit, whether that's consciously or subconsciously. And as I grow and evolve and progress and transcend, I become more conscious of myself. And by becoming more conscious of myself, that means I have more control over myself, which then means I have more control over my reality and how I live it, how I experience it. So that's what I've been focusing on heavily today, tremendously today. I wrote out exactly how I want my life to go, how I want to set up my life. And I wrote it in the present tense. I wrote it as if I'm living it right now. I wrote it like that so that I can specifically send that signal to my mind to say, yes, I'm living this life right now. And if I'm in that state of being, then that has no choice but to manifest, whether it's like slowly or quickly, but it's manifesting regardless. And the ways that I look at manifestations and creating my reality, it's literally like how you go to restaurants, you order food. The food isn't gonna, like, as soon as you put in your order, the food isn't gonna be right on your table, right in front of you, that right then and there. It's gonna take time to cook. It's gonna take time to prepare and all that stuff. And then the server, the waitress, brings it out to you. And then that's when you can enjoy what you ordered. And so manifestations and creating our realities is the same exact thing. Because the universe or God or source, Allah, whatever you want to call it, it's all different names for the same being. It's all different names for the same thing. As soon as we put our order in, aka as soon as we speak or write down or even think about what we want, that's being manifested in this very moment. And of course, that doesn't mean it's going to happen in this very moment, but the process is beginning. It's like you put in the order, the waiter or waitress takes their order back to the kitchen, tells the cooks to start preparing it, and then they start to prepare it. That's exactly what we're doing when we first think about what we want, and then either speak and or write down what we want. That is the very beginning of the manifestation process. And so the more conscious you are of your words and your thoughts, the more control you have over your reality. And so this is what I've been focused on all day today. So I wrote down exactly how I want my life to live, and just giving you more insight into how I did that. I didn't focus on like material things or like I want this to happen, I want to experience this, I want to do that, I want to always have this. I didn't really write down any of that stuff. I wrote down things to program my mind in a better way, in a more positive way, that's more in alignment with my soul purpose. That's more that is in complete alignment with my God self, with my higher self, whichever one you want to call it. I call it both. And so the way that I worded it, the way that I wrote I titled it, How Do I Want, I titled it, How Am I Setting Up My Life? That was the title that I had for it. And just by me titling it that instantly puts my mind into creator mode. Because I'm asking myself a question. How am I setting up my life? And so that gets me thinking. Every time I think about that gets me thinking, and that puts me into the state of mind, the state of being my higher self. Because that reminds me that I have complete control of myself, that I have complete control of how I wish to experience this reality. Now, granted, some things happen that are out of my control. Yes, I understand that. I'm not going against that. I'm not mad at that or anything. I fully accept that as a part of everyday life, as a part of just life itself in general. And I appreciate it. I have gratitude for it. Because when things are out of my control, that doesn't mean that they're always bad. And even if it is bad, I'm still grateful because I'm learning a lesson from it. And that lesson is helping me, is teaching me, is showing me ways to better myself. And that's all part of self-mastery. But at the same time, things outside of my control, they can be good for me. Like, for example, my youngest sister, she's in high school right now. She's playing basketball. And she's going to my old high school. And so I went to the game. I went to one of her recent games. And I wasn't expecting it. It wasn't even on my mind to get in free or anything. But when I walked in, I saw my old basketball coach. I saw my old high school coach. And like, we greeted each other and everything, gave him a hug and everything. And I was just about to pay. And like, everything for high school, I don't know if it's different in different areas around the United States, but here in Southern California, they moved to everything being online as far as payments go for ticket sales and stuff. And so I had just pulled my phone out to pay for the ticket, but then I immediately am greeted by my old head coach, and he just lets me in for free. And I wasn't expecting that. I was fully expecting to pay, but that's just an example of something being outside of my control. But it happened for my benefit. It was good for me, because who doesn't like free stuff? And it was great seeing him again. It was nice to be able to catch up a little bit and all that. So it was good. It was good for my soul. It was good for my spirit. And then I enjoyed the game and everything. But that's just an example of something being outside of my control that I didn't expect or anything like that. That was good for me. And so when this is what I'm working on right now, is reprogramming my mind to live in a state of being that is more open to good things happening like that. Because the way I've lived my life, I've lived it ever since I was little. I was always conscious about how other people were supplying for me, how other people were providing for me. Because I always wanted to be able to provide for myself, but I didn't know how. Because I was little. I was talking about I was 5, 6 years old. I didn't know how to provide for myself, but I had the mind state to want to provide for myself. But by having that mind state and not knowing how to actually do it, I was more so just conscious of how I allowed other people to provide for me. An example of this would be always being conscious of how much money my parents were spending on me. And say if we went out to eat or something like that, and they said I could get whatever I want, I wouldn't really get whatever I wanted. I would get whatever I wanted within a certain mental budget that I had for my parents, for that to spend on me. So say we went to, I don't know, there used to be this restaurant, his name was Tony Roma's. I don't know if that's a worldwide thing or a nationwide thing or anything like that, but it was here in the Southern California area. We'd go there, and I'd love going to that place. But I wouldn't ever allow myself to splurge or anything like that, because I was always conscious of, dang, well, this kind of costs a lot of money though. So I think I'm gonna go with this. It's a little less money, so my parents won't have to spend as much on me. That was my mindset. It was good that I was conscious of how others provided for me. It was good that I was conscious of, I was being considerate of others and their their finances. I was always very highly considerate of that. And so I always try to be as less, the least amount of a burden as I could possibly be. And I didn't think about that in a bad way, but it was more so I was looking out for them in a way that was allowing me to maintain at least some sort of control of myself. So growing up, that was pretty much my state of mind when it came to finances and just the way I operated in general. I was always considerate of others. I was too considerate of others, as a matter of fact. Because another example is whenever there'd be the last something in the fridge, the last slice of pizza, the last slices of bread, or the last little bit of juice or whatever it is, I would even if I wanted it badly, I just wouldn't eat it. I wouldn't consume it. I just leave it there for someone else, because I was always thinking, well, I'm going to be good either way. And there's other people in the house that they may be hungry and stuff. So I'm just going to leave it here for them. So that I always had that mindset mentality of looking out for others, even if it meant putting myself, not even if it meant depriving myself of something that I really wanted, or something that could have been rightfully mine, but I decided to let someone else have it because, it was in my heart I was thinking of them. I was being considerate of how they might be hungry. So, I'm thinking there's other things that I can eat. I have other things here, so I'm just going to eat whatever else that I have and leave this for them. That was my mindset. That was my mentality. And I never saw anything wrong with that until pretty recently, like as in recent years, like the last 3 or 4 years, where I started to change that mindset mentality to be more open to receiving blessings, and to be basically overall in a more abundant state of mind, and to be in a more abundant state of being. And for those that don't know, when I say abundant, I mean I'm always provided for. I always have enough. I always have more than enough. I'm always good no matter what. And even if I take this last slice of pizza, who cares? I can buy another one. Somebody else could buy another one. I'm not going to live in lack, in a state of lack, because I don't lack anything. Me as a being, as my higher self, I know that I'm not coming from a state of lack. I'm coming from a state of abundance, of love, of gratitude, of thanks, of giving and receiving. Not just giving and not just receiving, giving and receiving. That's the state that I'm moving myself into. And that's what I was reprogramming myself to be when I wrote what I wrote earlier. When I asked myself the question, how am I setting up my life? And notice I didn't ask, how am I going to set up my life, or how do I want to set up my life? No, those words don't speak as powerfully as how am I setting up my life? Because the question, how am I setting up my life, holds way more power than how am I going to, or how do I want to? Because asking myself, how am I going to, or how do I want to, that's assuming that I'm not doing it right now. And again, like when I'm writing what I want to happen, when I'm writing what I'm placing myself in the position to allow myself to have, writing it as if I'm in the present moment holds way more power, because that tricks not really tricks, but it puts my mind in a state of being that tells me, or that shows that I can have this right now in this moment. I don't have to work for it. I don't have to sell anything for it. I don't do anything for it, because I already am it. I'm already being it in the moment. All I have to do is choose to embody it. And so that's the reprogramming of my mind that I'm undergoing right now. And it's very beneficial. It's very beneficial, because when you put yourself in that state of mind, in that state of being, then you see that literally there are limitless opportunities. Like you are a limitless being living in this world. And so when you're in that state of mind, and you know that, and you operate in that way, you move in that way, you live in that way, nothing is going to stop you. Nothing is ever going to stop you from reaching your full potential. And even that is a myth. Your full potential, that is a myth, because there is no full potential. As a part of self-mastery, which I'll talk about in another video, but the 5 pillars, the 5 principles of self-mastery, one of them is transcendence. And with transcendence, you see that just because I'm reaching this certain point in my life doesn't mean that I can't go any higher. AKA, I'm learning more about myself. I'm discovering even more aspects of myself to learn and to master and to utilize. And the more that I do that, the higher the levels that I go, the more I see that there's a whole lot here for me to experience. There's a whole lot else. There's a whole lot more here for me to learn, because you're going beyond your boundaries. You're going beyond what you previously thought was possible, what you previously saw was possible. But now, with your heightened perspective, with your increased level of perception, you're seeing that there's a whole lot more. So this journey is literally never ending. But that's the beauty in it. That's the fun in it. Because if we reach the end, then what? We just start over? Like that, to me, that's boring. And to some people that may see it differently. But to me, just reaching the end and then starting over, it's like playing the same video game, like the story mode, over and over and over again, when you're not getting anything else from it. You're just continuing to reach the end and then go back to the beginning. Reach the end, go back. Like that is boring to me. And that's like another reason why I'm so heavily into self-mastery, because Also, if that were the case, even then, there'd still be ways to continue to grow and evolve and transcend when you're just going from start to beginning, or start to end, and start to end, start to end, that whole cycle, repeating that whole cycle, because there's an infinite amount of ways that you can go about getting to the end. Like, for example, like, say if you start a business, your goal is to become a millionaire. There is an infinite amount of possibilities that'll get you to millionaire status. Like, first of all, there's tons and tons and tons of different types of businesses that you can get into. And then within those almost limitless types of businesses to get into, there's also a limitless amount of ways to go about the certain type of business that you started. And so it's like you can always learn something. You can always go a different route to get to your end goal. You can always see that there's another route that's less traveled, or there's a route that's more traveled, or there's a route that hasn't even been traveled at all. There's a route that nobody's ever even seen before, considered a possibility. It's like that's like also a metaphor for just life in general, because we're all humans and we're all living in this society, specifically us in the Western society, like the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, and all that. The standard way of living is, you're born, you're given a name, religion, and all that stuff, and then you go to school, you go to public school, or maybe a private school, and then after that you graduate, and then you go to college, and then go from college to getting a job, and then you get a job, you work on your retirement plan, start a family, and then basically pass down that same mind state, that same way of being to your children, so that they can repeat the same cycle just in their own unique way. Like that. Like, that's the standard for Western society. But we know that as humans, we can live this life however we want to live. I mean, like, for me personally, I dropped out of college, and that was one of the best decisions that I've ever made in my life, because that was me stepping into my truth. But not diving into that, there's other people who dropped out in high school. There's people who dropped out in middle school. There's people who started working while they're in school. And then after they graduated high school, they're already good. They already had a lot of money saved up. And then all they had to do was figure out what to do next. And like, what I'm saying is, there's tons and tons of ways to go about living in this society, in this world, as a human being. Like, for example, like, how many different sports are there? So just because we're living here on Earth as humans, that doesn't mean we all have to play the same sports. Like, I play basketball. I tried out track in high school. I didn't really like it. It didn't really resonate with me. So I stuck with basketball. And there's other people who play football, who play soccer, or football. And then there's people who play American football. And there's different ways. There's so many different ways to go about living life. And my point is that even if there wasn't something beyond this earthly realm, which there is, but even if there wasn't something, the only limit that you have is your imagination. The only limit that you have is yourself, the way that you see things, the way that you perceive things. And so if you're continually evolving, continually growing, progressing, and transcending, then your life will never be boring. There should never be a boring moment at all, ever in your life. Because if you're in tune with yourself, if you love yourself, if you know yourself well enough to go within yourself and look for different things within yourself, then you'll never be bored. Like, there will be times where you don't know what to do, but if you are bored in those moments, then that'll be literally the only moments that you're bored. Because I know that for me personally, if I ever get like an ounce of boredom, well, which really I don't ever feel that, not anymore, because I kind of evolved past that. But if there's ever times where I don't know what to do, then I'll just meditate, because there's always something for me to be doing. And if I don't know what that is in the specific moment, then I'll just meditate and ask myself, what is there for me to do right now? What is best for me to be doing right now in order to make progress towards my soul purpose? And when I ask myself questions like that, I always get an answer. I always know what to do within a few minutes of meditating, and then I get on it. So I'm just saying that we are the real controllers of ourselves. We create the realities that we want to live. And going back to the Venus and retrograde, right now we have the ability to set up our lives and how we want to live through ways of business or through ways of relationships. And so for me, I'm focusing on both pretty much, because I'm getting my business stuff in order, and with my significant other, we're discussing different ways to better our relationship and to better our lives together. And so I'm just saying this whole message is to remind you that the power is in your hands. Your life is literally in your hands, because you are the controller of your life. And if you believe in an external God, then that external God will be in control of your life, because you hand your power away. But it's always your decision. It's always your decision no matter what. The power is literally always in your hands, but you have a choice of what to do with it. You can choose what you want to do with it, whether to keep it, to grow it, to evolve it, to give it away. There's tons and tons of religious people, for example, who continually give their power away to what they call the devil or Satan, because no other being outside of yourself ever has control of you, minus when we're little and our parents have guardianship over us. We're little, so there's really not much we can do physically, which is why our parents are here to take care of us when we're little. But if you're an adult and you're not utilizing your power in the ways that you want to live, that you want to utilize it, you're not living the life that you want to be living, then man, good luck to you. I just hope that whoever you're giving your power to has your best interests at heart. But your power, you should always be utilizing your power to live your own life, to live your specific, unique life. Because we all have our life purposes. We all have our own unique ways of living life. And if we don't express ourselves, if we don't live our own unique ways of living, then we're not doing any good for the collective. We're not doing any good for Earth. We're not doing any good for ourselves. And that's the very reason why we're not doing any good for anyone else. And so, yeah, this whole thing is just a reminder to sit back, relax, reflect, and really choose, make that decision on how you want to live your life. Ask yourself, how am I setting up my life? And other questions like, is my life how I want to be living life right now? Am I living the life that I want to be living right now? Am I living my ideal life? What is my ideal life? Ask yourself those types of questions. Get to know yourself on a deeper level. And then once you ask yourself those questions and you get settled, you get clarity on what it is that you actually want, then that's when you trust your intuition to guide you to what it is that you actually want. And so do that, and do that. Focus on that for right now, and that should be your primary focus. But until the next video, I want to say peace. I love y'all. Thanks for coming by, supporting the channel. Thanks for subscribing, commenting, liking, all that stuff. I love y'all. Peace.